Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte walking back a comment that she made about Donald Trump. She was asked if she would describe him as a good role model for children.
I think that certainly there are many role models that we have, and I believe he can serve as president, and so absolutely I would do that.
That's a moment, huh? The Republican senator, who is in a tough re-election fight, was clearly measuring her words and thinking about whether or not she wanted to say them exactly that way while she said it, and then she said this: "I misspoke tonight. While I hope all of our children could aspire to be president, neither Donald Trump nor Hillary Clinton have set a good example, and I wouldn't hold them up as role models for my kids." We're joined now by Sarah Flores, who's former deputy campaign manager for Carly Fiorina and a former spokesperson for the Republican National Committee, and Chris Kofinis is Senator Joe Manchin's former chief of staff. Sarah and Chris, welcome. Great to have both of you with us. So Sarah, let me start with you. It gets a little tricky out there on the old campaign trail for senators these days.
Oh, it sure does. But, you know, Democrats in New Hampshire are really scared right now. Kelly Ayotte's running about just under 10 points ahead of Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton hasn't had the coattails nationally that they hoped. They really hoped this would be a building year for them in the Senate, and it's not looking that way. So, look, they're trying to make this into a much bigger issue. The fact is the majority of Americans don't like either of these two candidates. So it's Dems trying to play gotcha, but I think Kelly Ayotte's got this race, and I think they're really worried about that.
All right, let's take a look at the 5. This is from the Washington Post. These are the 5 states that will decide which side controls the Senate next year. You've got Indiana, Nevada, where Harry Reid left a seat open, New Hampshire, and that's the Kelly Ayotte race, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, which is in a tie right now. Pretty tight race in Pennsylvania. Chris, what's your take?
Well, in New Hampshire, it's a tight race. I mean, the most recent poll has Hassan up a couple points. I mean, that was a pretty bad mistake. And it'd be generous to call it a mistake, because the reality is when you hear her use the word absolutely, it's pretty obvious what she's saying. The idea that she's saying that Donald Trump is a role model, I think, as my colleague here would say, even, Carly Fiorina was at the front or bore the brunt of some of the, Donald Trump's misogynistic behavior. I don't think this is a way that you can win either New Hampshire or win over those critical swing voters, particularly moderate women, that you need in some of these battleground Senate races to win. So I would say right now we're in a pretty good spot. There's 4 or 5 weeks left in this election, so there's a lot of instability that's still to come. But Democrats are in a pretty good spot in Indiana, in Wisconsin, in Illinois. The numbers look good in North Carolina, in Missouri. So I think, all things considered, the battleground is going to be competitive. Yeah. But the Democrats are looking fairly good right now.
But, this has been such a volatile race, because literally right before the first debate, we talked a lot about the fact that the down-ballot races were looking pretty good for the GOP, and that Trump wasn't having the impact on those down-ballot races that many people thought he might, that it was, in fact, just the opposite. So now you've got Paul Ryan saying that he's going to do a 17-state swing to try to work on that. He sees that as his top priority. Sarah, how do you expect he will sort of split this down the middle when it comes to Donald Trump, and in places where it might not be a good idea to align him with the candidate?
Well, I don't know that anyone envies Paul Ryan's next 4 weeks, but I think he'll do a great job out on the field. I think that Paul Ryan has been able to actually bridge the Donald Trump Republicans with the Senate candidates in a really productive way. There's a lot of Americans who are looking for change, and Donald Trump represents that, whether you like it or not. And Democrats, Hillary Clinton has been promising just a lot more of the same. So I do think the Senate candidates are going to pull it out in the end. Yes, will Republicans maybe lose a couple? Sure. But you look at states like New Hampshire and Kelly Ayotte, this isn't going to affect her race. It's just not. She'll end up pulling this out.
I had to tell you that that's just not correct. And because if you look at what Donald Trump is doing in terms of the backtrack in the numbers, in his poll numbers, he's losing women. You cannot lose women demographics by double digits and not have a spillover effect. And you're seeing that play out in some of these key battlegrounds, in particular in New Hampshire.
Chris and Sarah, thank you.